Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here at the Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. And I am delighted that you are considering UT Dallas as your destination for graduate degree. We have got a great team of folks who are joining us for this particular webinar. And I want to tell you a little bit about these folks. We have Corina Cantua. She is our director of our advising operation here in the school. She has been here a long time. She knows every answer to every question I have ever asked her. And she is the #1 go-to person when we have webinars like this to answer really critical application questions for prospective students. We also have this wonderful entourage of folks that come to us from our International Students and Scholars Office. These people have the patience of I don't even know who, but they are able to handle a complete proliferation of questions that international students ask about coming to UT Dallas. We are so fortunate that in our graduate programs, we have fully employed students who come to us directly from work to engage in our master's and MBA programs. And then we have the great pleasure of having students from all over the world who choose UT Dallas as their destination for a graduate degree. And you can see along the bottom, Josephine Vitta, the director of the ISSO office. You can see Elizabeth Walker, an associate director, and also Sarah Koo. And these individuals are going to help answer really critical questions that you have as a potential incoming F1 student. So let's look at what we're going to cover today, because we know that you have oodles of great questions, and they tend to fall into one of these 5 bucket categories. And we know that for you, it's really important that you get precise answers. So we're going to address questions that we know students have asked 1,000 times around applications, and how do you fill them out, and how do you respond, and how does it work? So we're going to address that. We're going to look at scholarship questions. We know that going to graduate school is really important, and we want to make sure that you understand how to take advantage of those financial opportunities. We're going to look at specific program questions, kind of what are the differences between the master's in terms of program length and credit hours and the MBA, which is a lot longer. And then, of course, we're going to address our wonderful guests from around the world who are considering UT Dallas as their destination. And we're going to answer those all-important questions that you might have around F1 status and how we help all of our international students. And then, of course, all of you that are attending are the stars of our show, and we want to make sure that you don't leave here today without answers to your unique and specific questions. So we're going to cover all of that, and we're going to start at the beginning with those all-important application questions. So Corina, why don't you take it away and answer these questions?
So absolutely, Dr. Powell, I'm happy to be here to answer all the application questions we can. I know we're going to start with some of the more popular ones that Norma is going to go ahead and ask, and I'll fill in the answers as best we can.
Our first question is, what is the application deadline, and what is the difference between the early and regular application deadline?
Yes, so on the screen, you're going to see the regular application deadlines. And when a student applies by those deadlines, they're applying on time with no late fees. That's a perfectly fine deadline to follow. Now, if you see the link on that screen, if you were to follow that, it takes you to the main university's page. And on that page, you will find some additional deadlines that are labeled the early application deadlines. If you're ready to go, if everything is good to go, an applicant has all of their documents ready and they want to follow the early application deadlines, they're more than welcome to do so. The advantage of doing that is that you're going to get a decision earlier, right? If you submit an application early, then you're going to get an earlier decision. But please do not be discouraged. If you happen to miss that early application deadline, it's okay. We're still reviewing the application after that deadline. We'll still get you a decision as quickly as possible. So it's okay if you miss the early application deadline and you're just following the regular application deadline.
Our second question is, do you offer GMAT and GRE waivers, and how do you apply for a GMAT or GRE waiver?
Certainly. Yes, we actually do offer GMAT GRE waivers, and it's actually pretty simple. When you apply and you submit all of your application materials except for the GMAT GRE, we're actually going to send your application file over to the review committee, and they're going to determine whether or not a GMAT GRE waiver is possible. If it's possible, we're going to continue processing your application and you're going to get a final decision that's going to be official. You're good to go. Now, if the waiver is not possible, we're actually going to notify you of that, let you know that you did not actually qualify for the GMAT GRE waiver, and we're going to expect a GMAT GRE score in order to continue with the review of the application. I do want to note on here that Dr. Powell is going to touch on scholarships in a little bit, and if you're interested in that, you have to be mindful that a GMAT GRE score is required for that.
Do I need to submit official transcripts and test scores with my admissions application?
So the answer to that is no. For an application review, we can actually use unofficial documents. You only need to submit official documents after you're admitted and in preparation for registration in your first semester. We do need to have official documents for you to remain enrolled in your first semester's coursework. But for the review of the application, we can work with unofficial documents. I do have that little reminder, like in my previous answer, Dr. Powell is going to talk about scholarships, and you have to be mindful about that because you do need an official GMAT GRE for that scholarship consideration. Now, if you're not interested in scholarships, then you're more than welcome to just work with unofficial documents, period.
Do you offer a waiver for the English proficiency requirement?
Yes, we actually do. This is another item that's going to be reviewed automatically. As you see on the left-hand side of the screen, you're not required to submit an English proficiency exam if either one, your native country's primary language is English, or number two, if you earned a degree previously through instruction and examination in English. So either of those two scenarios, the English proficiency exam is going to be waived. Again, it's going to happen automatically, but we do have to have a complete application in order to do the review for that English proficiency as well.
Can I apply to more than one program?
Yes, you can. The application system actually allows you to submit multiple applications for the same or even different semesters. And it's going to automatically share information across those applications. So once you enter your biographical information or information on your educational background, this information is going to carry over the other applications for any of the graduate programs you apply to at UTD. So you don't have to resubmit that type of information again. So that makes it a pretty simple process if you are interested in applying to more than one program.
Our next question is, how long does it take to receive an admission decision after applying?
Okay, so once we have all of your application materials that are needed for review, so if you got a GMAT GRE waivers, everything except that. If you didn't, we need a GMAT GRE. So once everything is submitted, it's going to take us about 2 weeks to get it through the process, get it to a review committee, get a final decision to be able to give you that final decision on the application. So our goal is always 2 weeks. We do encounter some periods of time where there's a high influx of applications and a lot more that we're working with. But even within that, we are still pushing and we're still trying to get you a decision as quickly as possible to meet that goal of getting you a reply in 2 weeks.
Our next question is quite common. What is the profile of our average admitted student?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So this is going to depend on the program that you're looking into. So I would encourage students to visit our program pages that are on our School of Management website. And there you can take a look at the class profile for each of the programs that a student is interested in. They're going to look like what is on the screen right now. It's going to have a lot of good information, a good snapshot of what each program and how you as an applicant compare to that average admitted student.
Thank you so much, Corina. We are going to go back to Dr. Powell so that we can talk about scholarship questions. The first one is, what types of scholarships are available as a new student and as a continuing student?
Thank you for that question, Norma. So let me break it down so it's really easy and simple to remember. So for an incoming student, we have something called the Dean's Excellence Scholarship. So that is an award that gives you $1,000, but also gives you in-state resident tuition for 2 long semesters. So that's would be a fall and a spring in our case. So that's a really generous award and can make a big financial impact. The second type of scholarship, which is for continuing or current students, we have really 3 different types of scholarships. We award a Dean's Excellence for academic performance while a student is here. we also award something called the Dean's Impact Scholarship. And that is really based on service to the school combined with academic performance as well. We don't disregard academic performance. And then we also have donor scholarships as well that we're able to offer to our continuing or current students. So there's opportunities coming in the first year. You don't get them the first year, there's opportunities in the second year.
The next question is, what is the process to apply for scholarship and what is the deadline?
Well, the deadline is May the 1st. Going into the fall semester, it's May the 1st. If you're looking for a future semester beyond that, the spring deadline is January the 1st, but that's only for incoming students. So let's talk about the process, because the process is different depending upon whether you're a brand new student or whether you are a continuing student. If you are a brand new student, you simply need to go to the scholarship portal from our Jindal at utdallas.edu website, our jindal.utdallas.edu website. Just look under students, look under scholarships, go choose graduate, go choose yourself as a new student, then go in and complete that small application on our scholarship portal. That is all you need to do. You will get a confirmation that your application has been submitted, and then the committee will begin to look at that application once an official GMAT or GRE score has been submitted. We'll talk in a minute about kind of the award process. For a continuing student, you have to do two things. You have to go to that same portal and fill out an application, but then you also have to do a second portion, and you'll get a link in your email that links you to the second portion to complete. But for a brand new student, it's really easy. One stop, one place, one application, and you're in.
Am I eligible to apply for scholarship if my GMAT or GRE was waived?
So this is a really good question, and it's awesome that we're able to offer GMAT and GRE waivers for admission purposes. But if you want to compete for scholarship, you're going to need to take and submit an official GMAT or GRE score. So you may have been admitted with a waiver for admissions, but want to compete for scholarship. We don't waive that for you. You'll need to take the test, submit an official GMAT or GRE score, and you need to submit that score by the application deadline.
What does the scholarship committee look for when they're awarding scholarship?
So this is a really good and really thoughtful question. The scholarship committee is very holistic in its review. We're looking at everything that you submitted during the application process. We're looking at your undergraduate GPA. We're looking at your resume. We're looking at recommendations and statements of purpose. We're looking at GMAT and GRE scores in order to make those decisions. Now, the process for awarding, because it is rolling, we're kind of always reviewing those applications and making awards. We're obviously going to award to the most competitive candidates first. So you may have to wait a while. If you're not a top-notch candidate, we may not look at your application for a while. But that doesn't mean that you might not get an award, because we give away a lot of scholarships.
When will I find out if I was awarded scholarship?
So once we start awarding, you'll find out pretty quick. So if you're a very competitive candidate, the scholarship committee meets every 10 days or so, every 10 business days. We'll make decisions, and you'll get an email that will ask you to accept your scholarship. But if you are a less competitive candidate or an average candidate, then the latest that those awards would come out as a new incoming student would be in early May. If you are a continuing student, none of those decisions are generally made until the middle of the summer. So you have to wait a little bit longer if you are a continuing student, but then you're already here.
Am I eligible for in-state tuition if I'm awarded scholarship?
So if you are awarded a tuition waiver scholarship, all of our incoming scholarships, Dean's Excellence scholarships, that's what we call them, are tuition waiver scholarships. And that would give you 2 long semesters of in-state tuition, which is about half the cost of what you would pay as an out of residence. So that's a really big bump.
Alrighty, now we'll go on to some popular program questions. The first one being, how many credit hours does the program take to complete?
So that is a really great question. And the example on the screen is specifically about a master's degree program. And the example is a business analytics degree. So all of our master's degree programs here in the Jindal School are 36 credit hours, but you will enroll in 37 because you are required to take a program prerequisite in your first semester here. And that program prerequisite is professional development, MAS 6102. It's a 1 credit hour class that we require of all of our students coming in. So an individual obtaining a master's degree is going to take 36 plus 1, 37 credit hours in order to graduate. But if you're coming into an MBA degree, that is a 53 credit hour program. So that's going to take longer to complete. And there are not any program prerequisites for the MBA. So you can come in and you're, of course, also able to transfer in credit hours. The master's transfers in 9, the MBA you can transfer in 12, but you have to go through a review process for any of those courses to potentially transfer. Now, keep in mind that as you're looking at which graduate program to apply to, you need to visit that program webpage, because on that program webpage, we are going to break that curriculum down for you. We're going to break down what is core class requirements for that master's or MBA, and we're going to break down what the electives are and whether or not that master's and MBA have potential concentrations that you can choose. So this is the kind of thing that you want to study early. You don't want to come in and make a decision at the last moment if you're going to go into the supply chain program. You want to have studied the potential concentrations in the supply chain program based upon the kind of job you want to get when you graduate. So you want to spend ample time on our program web pages, whether or not it's an MS or whether it's the MBA. Go and click on what will take you to the curriculum. Look at the core classes that are required, then look at the concentrations you can take and the elective options you have in each concentration, and base that upon what it is you want to do when you've completed the degree. You want to graduate with the knowledge that will make you qualified for that position that you're applying for. You don't want to waste any of those precious semesters taking classes that really aren't going to be relevant to the career that you're looking for post completion of the degree.
Our next question is, what is the estimated cost for the entire program?
So that is a complicated question, Norma, and I'm going to do my best to try and answer that. So we're at a university where the more credit hours you take in a semester, the less you pay per credit hour. Now, keep in mind that full-time graduate work is 9 credit hours. When you're an undergraduate, full-time is 12 or 14 or 15, depending upon what university you go to. But typically, 9 credit hours is full-time coursework. So you don't want to come in here and think, oh, well, Dr. Powell said the more credit hours I take, the less cost per credit hour. So I'm going to complete it in 2 long semesters and take 18 credit hours my first semester. No, that is not a good decision, because taking 18 credit hours of graduate class will kill you. So what you want to do is think about how you're going to go through the program and how many hours you're going to take each semester. Now, there's a handy dandy cost of attendance calculator that you can get to, and you can see how to get there by the link on the screen. You can put in that you're graduate, you can put in that you're out of state or in state, you can put in what school you're going to and the number of credit hours, and it will give you an estimate of your tuition. But keep in mind that, you know, there's tuition, there's supplemental tuition expenses, and then we also have additional fees for things like online classes that you will take, like synchronous and asynchronous classes. So those have fees. So this is just an estimate, but it's a good way to help you think about what the approximate cost will be as you move through either a 36 credit hour master's degree or 53 credit hour MBA.
Our next question is, who should I contact if I have questions about the degree curriculum or career outlook for the program I am interested in?
So I really love this question. And the most important part of the answer to this question is bringing up the program director. As a prospect to a graduate degree program here at the Jindal School, you have probably already received emails from your designated program director. They are absolutely the best resource for you to contact or even attend their webinars. They have specific webinars about business analytics and supply chain and healthcare and innovation and entrepreneurship and MBA, where you can hear them talk about, here are the core courses, here's what we cover, here are the concentrations, here are the kind of jobs that you can get, here's what the class profile looks like. And that program director is your point of contact for the entire time that you're here in the program. So they can help you with everything from choosing your elective courses to your concentration to, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling in this class. You know, what do I do? They can talk to you about careers and career options. They are your first line of defense in answering all of those kinds of questions. And you see those examples on the right side of your screen. If you look to the left side of your screen, you'll see the great thing that Corina and her team can do for you. We have a great advising operation, a whole team of experts that help students with more about the mechanics of being a student. You know, understanding a degree plan. What are the courses that are required? How do you register for classes? How do you add? How do you drop? How do you change your degree program? How do you apply for graduation? So that's what the advising office does. But as a prospective student, whether it's an MS or an MBA, you will want to reach out to those program directors. Most of our program directors hold weekly or bi-weekly webinars where they can answer tons of information, questions about you know, the degree plan and what the careers are. And oftentimes they will bring current students and alumni to those webinar sessions to really help prospective students understand and appreciate the return on the investment in coming to the Jindal School.
What type of career support does JSOM offer?
So I love this slide. I just love this graphic because I think that this is really, there are a couple of things that really distinguish the Jindal School from other schools that you might be looking at and considering. And so one of those distinguishing differences is around our career management support. We have our own dedicated career management team here in the Jindal School called the CMC, the Career Management Center, and they do all of the things that you see on the screen. But we make it even easier than just walking into a center and saying, please help me with an internship or please help me with networking. We require all of our master's students to take a professional development class where in your very first semester, we get your resume ready for distribution, organized in the way that our employers expect to see your resume. We have already taught you how to network. We have already introduced you to the process for securing an internship. We have already walked you specifically through how to frame your cover letter, how to connect with the career management folks and attend workshops and career fairs and employer engagements. So that's one resource within the school. The other resource within the school around career is your actual program. You will see that your program directors are holding events where they are bringing in awesome panels of alumni who will talk about how they landed their internship or how they landed their H-1B job or their full-time position, and will share with prospective students and current students how they made it happen and how they can make it happen as well. So that's one distinguishing feature about the Jindal School that is really different than all of the other graduate business schools in America. The other side of career is around our student organizations. We have over 70 student organizations here, and really the bulk of those organizations are focused exclusively on helping a student understand the career that they're going into and networking with employers and alumni and people that can help them advance their career goals. And they help host case competitions and employer competitions so that we can give students the best advantage. There isn't a graduate school in America that has 70 plus student organizations to help students on the career side. So keep in mind those two distinguishing features, but all of the resources that you see on the screen, they're here and ready for you to take advantage of as a student at UT Dallas.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Now we are going to go over to Elizabeth Walker, who will be answering some of our questions that have to do with international student considerations.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's exciting to have you here as prospective UT Dallas students.
Our first question that we get a lot from our eager students is, how do I contact ISSO?
That is a great question. We have many different ways for students to receive advising services through the ISSO. We have something called live chat, where you can type your answer and get an immediate response from an advisor. If you need more time to ask your questions, you can schedule a virtual appointment through Microsoft Teams. We do offer face-to-face appointments also if you happen to be in the area. And we have something called Ask an Advisor through iComment, where you can submit a question and get a response from an advisor in a day or two.
Our next question is, what is the iComment portal that you just mentioned?
So once a student has been admitted to UT Dallas, they have access to iComment. And iComment is where you would submit your request for an I-20 if you are an international student. You would log into iComment to upload the required documents for an I-20, which would be the financial affidavit form, passport, and proof of financial support.
We have a lot of students who are very eager to get started on the I-20 process after they're admitted. So how do they apply for their I-20?
So to become an F1 student, the student needs to apply for the I-20 and then apply for an F1 visa. First, they need to be admitted to a degree-seeking program at UT Dallas, and then submit to the ISSO through iComment a copy of their passport, which is valid for at least 6 months into the future. A copy of the UT Dallas financial affidavit completed by the student, and sufficient funding. And if you're not sure what is sufficient funding, you may visit our website, which talks about the financial requirements and the type of acceptable financial documents.
These next questions have to do with the visa. So the first one is, how do I prepare for a visa appointment?
So preparing for the F1 visa appointment is really important. First, you need the required documents to apply for the visa, which would be the valid passport, the initial I-20, the proof of financial support, the proof of admission to UT Dallas, and very importantly, your proof of ties to your home country.
What are some common mistakes or missteps that international students sometimes make when they're applying for their I-20 or when they have their visa appointment?
So when applying for their I-20, students sometimes submit financial documents that were issued more than 12 months in the past, or that are not in English, or that are financial documents that we are not able to accept. So if a student is unsure of what type of financial documents we can accept, always referring to our website is great. For the visa appointment, so when the student has their visa appointment, the visa officer wants to know about their intent. Their intent should be to come to UT Dallas and to get a degree in a field that is going to tie directly back to their career goals in their home country. If the student indicates that their goals are to have a career in the US after they get their degree here, they may not be granted the F1 visa because the F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa.
And what advice do you have for somebody whose visa is denied?
So if a student's F1 visa is unfortunately denied, the visa officer should give them a slip of paper that indicates the exact reason for their denial. Okay. The student can then schedule a subsequent visa appointment with the understanding that they have to have some new information for the visa officer to consider, either something that they say or something that they present. Because if they present exactly what they did the previous time, they'll get the same decision.
Our next question has to do with on-campus employment. As an international student, am I eligible for on-campus jobs?
Yes, F1 students, once they've got their visa and their I-20, can enter the United States up to 30 days before their semester start date, their program start date at UT Dallas, and can work on campus up to 30 days before the semester start date. F1 students can work in any job on campus that provides direct services to students, and they don't need any special authorization from the ISSO. They are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during a long semester and full-time during school breaks.
When will I be eligible for CPT?
So lots of F1 students are interested in CPT. This is off-campus paid internships related to a student's major. Students are eligible for CPT after they have completed an academic year in F1 status, which would be 2 long semesters. They also have to be in good academic standing and meet all requirements of the JSOM Career Management Center prior to being eligible for approval from the ISSO.
Thank you so much, Corina. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I think we're going to have a lot of additional questions here that we're going to answer that the students have in addition to what we have covered. We are a very student-centered kind of school and university, and we care very much about your questions, and we give you a lot of venues in which to ask them. So those program directors, which you've seen emails from, they are a great resource. You can always email jindal@utdallas.edu if there are questions that we don't answer here today. And we have something called the JSOM question desk, and you can see a link on your screen, and they can also answer questions. But I encourage all of you to be really proactive. You know, you have to do a lot of planning if you're going to come to graduate school. So take the time to read websites, take the time to read important emails, take time to read the application process. Really, most of the answers that you need are readily available on the website. So take a quick look there. Just do us a favor and don't email the same question to about 20 people. That will make it a little bit challenging for you when you get all of those same answers back in your email box. So I guess, Norma, you know, let's move on to questions that students might have, and let's see what they've come up with that we didn't think about in advance.
We have got a lot of great questions. The first question we have is about internships. We have some students who are coming in the fall, and they're curious, international student, when they might be able to do an internship. And I was hoping you could also talk about typically how many internships our students do.
Wow, internships are so important in terms of how you leverage your education into potentially an H-1B visa. So there are quite a number of our STEM-based programs here that require an internship, which means you actually do one for course credit. You have to have completed 2 long semesters. That means a fall and a spring, or a spring and a fall, in order to be able to do an internship. And most of our students will do 2 or 3, especially in those programs where the internship is required. And even in programs where it's not required, students will often do up to 3. So what they generally do is they break the 3 credit hours down into single units. So they'll take 1 semester, 1 credit hour of internship. The next semester, maybe they'll extend with that same employer to do a second semester. Sometimes they'll go with a brand new employer, but generally they'll do 2 or 3. You can go to our internship stories website and you can read all about the fabulous internships that our students get. It is amazing. They're required as a part of the course to report on their experience and talk about what they got to do for that great employer. So you can learn all about the literally hundreds of internships that our students are doing out there every semester.
We have a couple of attendees who have been admitted for summer, and they're asking if we offer scholarship in the summer. And so I was hoping you might talk about what a strategy could be of maybe deferring to fall instead.
Yeah, we do not offer summer scholarships. So you may want to think, if you want to be competitive and you're willing to take a GMAT or GRE if you were admitted with a waiver, then you may want to consider deferring your admission to fall and applying for scholarship. But just keep in mind, the scholarship deadline is May 1. So you're going to need to make that decision. You need to go into the system, seek a deferral, and then also apply for that scholarship, but also submit that official GMAT and GRE score so that you have an opportunity to be considered.
So one of our attendees asked about events in August that they need to attend, events like orientation. And so they were asking what they actually need to attend and what they need to be present for the fall term. So I was hoping you could discuss the different types of orientation that we have.
Really great question. You know, I think that it's a little bit stressful for international students in particular who are traveling, you know, around the world to come to school here. They're often worried about the expense of rent and utilities, perhaps, for those 30 days before the semester starts. And as Elizabeth said, and Josephine would tell you, you can arrive 30 days before the start date of the semester. But those orientations are critically important, and you want to attend all of them. You will find yourself at a disadvantage if you don't. There is an international student orientation that is required. There is a required check-in process for you with ISSO. We hold 2 orientations here in the Jindal School that you will want to attend. Those are both on the same day. They're generally on the Thursday before classes start. So that's not more than a few days, but you will find yourself struggling in terms of your transition in if you don't make plans to attend all of those orientations. They all address very different topics, and they are all important for you to know the rules, the procedures, the do's, the don'ts, the way to avoid a turbulent start to your graduate degree program. So in my mind, you need to be at all of them. And they are, I mean, you won't need to be here 30 days in advance, but, you know, certainly want to be here within the 2 weeks before the semester starts. So get signed up for those orientations really quickly.
This next question has to do with the I-20. This person has already been issued an I-20. They received a scholarship award, congratulations, but they're wondering if they need to reapply for the I-20 after receiving a scholarship. And then in another question, somebody asked if they have to wait for a scholarship decision in order to apply for an I-20.
So why don't you pitch that over to Josephine,
Sure.
Since that's in the whole I-20 court.
All right, here we go.
All right. I'll be happy to answer that question. So it's a very common question. Number one, I'll take the second part first. Do not wait to apply for your I-20. And the reason is, in order to get your visa appointment, you're going to need your SEVIS ID to do that, and you're going to need your I-20. So whether something later changes with your financial information, if you have that I-20 with that SEVIS ID, you can go ahead and apply for your visa appointment and have that in place, and you're not having to wait and, you know, closer to the time when many other students are applying for their visa appointment. So that's number one. After you receive your I-20, or if you've already received your I-20, if there's any kind of change to your finances, that could be because you receive a scholarship, or it could be something else that changes in your financial, you can think about whether or not you want to request a change in that I-20 information or not. It is not a requirement. What you do want to make sure is that the information you're presenting at the visa interview is consistent with the information that is on your I-20. So if you want to go to the visa interview and show the scholarship information, go ahead and request that. If you still have your personal bank statements or other documents, your loan, etc., and you have those documentation, even though you've also been awarded a scholarship, you can do that. The piece you want to think about is, where are you in the visa process? If you've already applied, you've met with the visa officer, you're waiting for your visa to be issued, there's no need to go ahead and change your I-20. And you have to think about the time. It can sometimes take us a couple of days for us to reissue that I-20. So if your visa interview is going to be within the next 5 days or so, don't take the chance of having that I-20 come later. Just go with the documents you have.
Now, while I have you on screen, I have another question about the I-20. This person says, and I'm assuming they got a scholarship award based on their question, but it says, when I am requesting my I-20 for fall 2023, do I have to show the whole tuition and fees as my account balance, or 50% balance is accepted?
So in order to get the I-20 and to be eligible to enter the US with it, we need to see funds for one academic year. And so for one academic year, that's going to be a fall and spring or spring and fall. Summer is an optional semester for most students unless it's your first semester. So that is what the estimated expenses on our website shows for you, regardless of whether you have a scholarship or you're self-funded. We're only going to be looking at one academic year of tuition, fees, and living expenses.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and bring Dr. Powell back onto the screen because we have some students or attendees who are asking about teaching assistantship roles. So I was hoping that you could talk about, typically who gets those positions and when they might be eligible as students.
Another really good question and a great way to think about funding portions of your expenses towards your graduate degree. So we do not give teaching assistantships or graduate assistantships to new incoming students. Those are awarded to students after they've been here one semester. Our faculty want to hire the best qualified student who can assist with the teaching assistantship role in a particular class. So they're going to look for the best candidate. And sometimes it's the student who made straight A's in certain classes. Sometimes it's a student with a really high GPA performance in a combination of classes. Sometimes it's a really good performance combined with really great work experience that a person had. So we want to have the best qualified person that is helping our faculty. We offer a lot of teaching assistantships after you've been here for a semester. The thing that is important for you to remember is that, these are competitive. And this is a great way to fund your expenses here. We just recently did a webinar. So for all of you that are looking for opportunities to fund your experience here, you should go and look at the webinar. Norma's going to post it in the chat, but it's a webinar we did a few weeks ago, and it talks about all the different ways to look at the funding opportunities, from scholarship the first year to scholarship the second year to campus jobs to internships and what they pay, and even to educational loans, which many of our students take out and pay back very quickly. So I encourage everyone to go and look for those.
So we have a few of our attendees who've been admitted. They're really excited to get registered. Can you talk about when our students typically register for the fall semester? And also they were wondering about certain holds on their account, and if those holds about like cannot register online or about documents, if those holds will prevent them from registering.
So this is really important. You'll be able to register if you have been admitted. You'll be able to register very early in the month of April. Based on a notice that comes up in Orion. Orion is our centralized student system where you go in and check things. You'll get an appointment. It's called an advising appointment. It's not a real appointment. It's just a time when you can start to register. So we'll be doing a webinar at the end of March or near the end of March, where we will talk about, this is how you do it. This is how you register for classes. These are the types of holds that are out there. We will pretty much remove all of the holds so that you'll be able to register. Now that's temporary removal of those holds. And you'll be able to register really early. Corina may be able to jump in and give a more precise idea of the dates, but you'll be able to get your classes confirmed and on, and you don't have to worry about that the rest of the time until classes start in the fall. You'll be able to take care of figuring out where you're going to live and when you're going to come, and people that you're going to meet when you're here, and connecting with people on WhatsApp. So Corina, can you give the approximate time when new incoming students will be able to register?
Yes, I can do that. So the schedule is for the summer and fall 2023 semesters is going to go live in late March. So we expect that you would be able to see what classes are available for that term to start deciding what you want to enroll in. the programs. And as Dr. Powell mentioned, there's going to be webinars that includes program information. They will be sending you emails. They will also be inviting you to these webinars so that you can get more specifics on what you need to do and what classes you need to take. And then once that happens, you will also notice, Dr. Powell was mentioning, there's going to be a date that's going to be included in your Orion Student Center that is going to tell you specifically when you can start enrolling in classes. And that typically is going to be around mid-April that you're going to be able to see that. And once that date comes, you can start planning ahead of that. You don't have to wait until then, but that date will then allow you to actually be registered in your courses.
And those holds, just to address the holds, there are standard holds. We have a TB test hold. Now that hold will be lifted so that you can enroll for classes, but then you need to get that TB test done and reported by a certain date in the fall semester, and it's pretty quick. It's generally the census date for the school. So that one will be lifted. There are document holds that you sometimes see. That means that we have not received your official documents. Again, that hold will be lifted, but you need to bring those documents with you. And if you don't get that taken care of, you won't be able to enroll in subsequent semesters. And then there are other holds sometimes that the school will put on, but we try to get all of those holds out of the way so they don't prohibit you from getting enrolled and getting that taken care of really early, so that that is not something that you're worrying about. You're looking forward to getting here and being all excited about connecting with future friends and maybe past friends that are already here. We want to make it an easy transition.
We have a couple attendees who have received the Dean's Excellence Scholarship. Congratulations to them. But they received the Dean's Excellence Scholarship, the type that requires them to be in the dual degree. So they were asking if they have to enroll in the dual degree or kind of how that would impact their program, their time here, things like that.
That's a great question, and congratulations to you. If you've been identified as one of the individuals to receive an MSMBA, that means that the committee looked at your file and said, look, we want to get this individual to consider adding the MBA. But that is not a requirement. You don't need to go in and apply for the double degree. You will just simply arrive here, and shortly after you arrive, we'll help you do a change of program form. You are not required to take any MBA courses your first semester. The whole point of the award is that you will look into it, that you will consider it. You'll go talk to the MBA office, you talk to your program director. Having that combination of degree, you can do it in the same amount of time as you would have done the MS by just adding a few more classes. So the commitment academically is not huge. It's pretty amazing. And it is a power punch when it comes to your career and career planning to be able to go out and maybe have a business analytics and an MBA at the same time. I would venture to guess that probably 40% of the students that we award the MSMBA scholarship to actually graduate with both degrees, but you're not required to. You'll be able to drop the MBA and move forward and never take an MBA class. We just believe in you and we want you to entertain that option. You don't need to change your application or complete another application.
We have a couple attendees who have asked about applying for scholarship without a GMAT or GRE. So first they asked, how do they apply for a GMAT GRE waiver? And then the second question is, how does that impact their ability to apply for scholarship?
So if you've submitted all of your documents minus the GMAT and GRE, we will look at you for the consideration of a waiver of the GMAT or GRE. You can also email us and ask for consideration as well. But if you've submitted everything else, but you haven't submitted the score, we'll at least look at the file to see if that's something that we can do. But let's say that you are granted a waiver of the GMAT GRE with regard to admission and you're offered admission. That is great. That's awesome. But if you want to apply for a scholarship, you must submit a GMAT or GRE, even if it was waived in the admissions process. So that's one of those nuanced caveats that you want to keep in mind. You can get a waiver for admission, but if you want to apply for scholarship and be considered, you'll have to submit an official score.
We have an attendee who has been admitted into the business analytics program, and they know that we have quite a large program, and they are worried about how a large program might impact their chances when it comes to career or just their chances in general. And so I was hoping you could talk about what we see as advantages of a large program.
Yeah, this is a really great question. So thank you to the prospective student who's going to be here for asking this question. So, a lot of schools, especially smaller schools, that will admit only 70 students into what they call a cohort program, will make the argument that you get lots of personal attention if you go into a small program. You won't have to compete against so many students to get internships and jobs. Well, I would argue exactly the opposite of that. When you go to a big program, you have enormous career advantages. Here we have a big business analytics program. We have a big ITM program. We're big. We're just generally big. But when you are in a big program, you've got multiple concentrations and tracks that you can choose from. You have an abundance of courses and electives that you don't get to choose from in a small school. You have an abundant number of student organizations that engage with employers, provide competitions, alumni who come back to help with that. Also, a lot of students who are kind of comparing big to small, they don't realize that employers want to come to big schools. They want to come where they can hire all the students that they need at once, as opposed to going and considering students from, 15 or 20 schools. We have a huge advantage. There are some employers that come here, hire their whole set of people that they need for internships. So go out and look at our internship stories. Get on and talk with the program director, talk to the current students, talk to those program ambassadors, and you're going to see that when you're here, you have huge advantages. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had an incredible employer come and host a certification program for students here in the school. It was RX, I can't remember the exact name of it. We had 1,000 of our students who sat for the certification, 500 of them that were awarded this certification, that passed the exam. And those students are going to a massive career fair that is actually taking place in the business school today. So we're able to attract a lot of employers who want to come and talk to a lot of students about the opportunities inside of their organization. So big wins in this occasion. So if you're a little bit uncomfortable about that, you need to engage with the program director, talk to the current students here, and I think you'll be surprised at what a huge advantage it is to go to a big school.
Perfect. Thank you. That is all the time we have left for questions. So I want to give you some time for closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Norma. First, I want to thank folks for being with us today. Elizabeth was here with us earlier to answer a bunch of scholarship questions, had to run off to a meeting. So thank you, Josephine, for jumping in to answer those questions about international student issues, I-20s, visas, and those kinds of things. Thank you to Corina. She runs an amazing group of advisors who help support our students as they go through their academic journey here. And Norma, of course, who pulls all the levers behind the scenes and makes our webinars happen. We are so thrilled that you would take time out to talk with us, to ask us great questions, to be very thoughtful about important decisions that you're making for your life and for your career. We're delighted that you're thinking about, or perhaps have already applied or have already been admitted to the Jindal School. And we really can't wait to get to know you and welcome you to the state of Texas, to North Texas, the city of Dallas, and to the Jindal School of Management. So thank you so much for being with us today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate reaching out to jindal@utdallas.edu. We're glad to answer those questions. Look for those invitations if you've been admitted, so that you can enroll in classes and knock that off your list and not have to worry about the courses you're going to take in the fall. Thanks again for joining us. Be in touch. We really look forward to hearing from you soon.